Hello friends, in this lecture number 32 we are going to study TCP/IP client sockets URL. These are the two classes, 2 points from unit 4 networking basics. Here TCP/IP client sockets. TCP/IP sockets are used to implement reliable bidirectional persistent point-to-point stream-based connections between hosts on the internet. A socket can be used to connect Java's I/O system to other programs that may reside either on the local machine or on any other machine on the internet. Note that applets may only establish socket connections back to the host from which the applet was downloaded. This restriction exists because it would be dangerous for applets loaded through a firewall to have access to any arbitrary machine. So, for these applications, applets are not preferred. And these TCP/IP sockets are used to implement the reliable bidirectional persistent point-to-point stream-based connections between hosts on the internet. There are two kinds of TCP/IP sockets, TCP sockets in Java. One is for servers and the other is for clients. The server socket class, S capital, SS capital, and these two words are combined. Server socket, this is a class. The server socket class is designed to be a listener which waits for clients to connect before doing anything. That the meaning of this is that server is every time waiting for the listening, or it can act as a listener. After listening, he can give the response. So the server socket class is designed to be a listener which waits for a clients to connect before doing anything. Thus, server socket is for servers. The socket class is for clients, only socket. The socket class is for clients. It is designed to connect to server sockets and initiate protocol exchange. Because client sockets are the most commonly used by Java applications, they are examined here. The creation of a socket object implicitly establishes a connection between the client and server. When we are creating a socket object, implicitly establishes a connection between the client and server. There are no methods or constructors that explicitly impose the details of establishing that connection. How server and client's connection is established, that is not exposed by the details. It is implicitly established. Developer's task is there. They can implicitly establish the connection between the client and server. Here are the two constructors used to create client sockets. Constructor to create the client socket. First constructor, socket, it is a class name, so yes, capital first letter of that class is capital. Socket into bracket string host name comma integer port bracket complete throws unknown host exception comma IO exception. This constructor creates a socket connected to the named host and specified port. First constructor, socket into bracket string host name integer port bracket complete throws unknown host exception comma IO exception. This creates a socket connected to the named host and port. Second constructor, socket inet address IP address, comma, integer port, bracket complete, throws IO exception. Creates a socket using a pre-existing inet address object and a port. These are the two constructors of client sockets. Socket defines several instance methods. Socket class defines several instance methods. For example, a socket can be examined at any time for the address and port information associated with it by use of following methods. Socket methods. First one is the inet address get inet address method. This method returns the inet address associated with the socket object. It returns null if the socket is not connected. Second method, integer get port. Get port method is there. Returns the remote port to which the invoking socket object is connected. Get port returns a remote port to which the invoking socket object is connected. It returns 0 if the socket is not connected. Third, integer get local port returns the local port to which the invoking socket object is bound. It returns -1 if the socket is not bound. We can gain access to the input and output streams associated with a socket by use of the get input stream method and get output stream methods. These are shown below. Each can throw an IO exception if the socket has been invalidated by a loss of connection. First method, input stream get input stream method throws IO exception. This returns the input stream associated with the invoking socket. Output stream get output stream method throws IO exception, returns the output stream associated with the invoking socket. Several other methods are available, including there is one connect method which allows us to specify a new connection is connected. This method returns true if the socket is connected to a server, is bound, which returns true if the socket is bound to an address, and is closed, which returns true if the socket is closed. Like this, number of methods are there also. Connect, is connected, is bound, is closed. Like this, methods are there for the socket. Example, there is one example we have who is .java. The following program provides a simple socket example. It opens a connection to a who is port, that is port number 43 on the Internet server, sends the command line argument down the socket and then prints the data that is returned. Internet will try to look up the argument as a registered internet domain name and then send back the IP address and contact information for that site. See this example. If for example we obtained information about osborne.com, output for this we had get something similar to the following: who is server version 1.3, domain names in the .com, .net and .org domains can now be registered with many different competing registers. Go to the http://www.internet.net for detailed information, and output for this program can be domain name :osborne.com, register network solutions, inc, who is server, who is .networks, network solutions.com, referral URL, name server dot. Like this output will be displayed. Okay, we are going to see this example first of all. See the example. First of all, I am going to start the command prompt. cmd command prompt. d:/cd space video lecture cd space unit 4. Okay, we have this program java c space who is. Okay, see this example first of all. Demonstration of sockets. First thing, we need to import the packages. Networking support package is the net. So import java.net.star, import java.io.star semicolon, class who is, open the class body, curly bracket open, public static void main string args throws io exception, open curly bracket for the public method, one variable integer c. Now create a socket connected to internet.net, port 43. For that we are creating the socket s instance, socket s equal to new socket into bracket double quotation internet.net double quotation complete bracket complete port 43. This we have initialized the socket or created the s object of the socket. Next, obtain the input and output streams. Input stream in equal to s dot get input stream semicolon, output stream out equal to s dot get output stream semicolon. Now construct a request string str equal to into bracket args dot length double equal to 0 question mark into bracket double quotation osborne.com question mark double quotation complete semicolon colon args into bracket 0 brackets complete circular bracket complete plus into bracket into double quotation /n double quotation complete semicolon. Here we have used a ternary operator args dot length double equal to 0, then it considers the osborne.com. If we have provided the value in the execution, then it considers the args into bracket 0 like this. Okay, next convert it to a byte buffer array buf array equal to str dot get bytes method b capital, and now send the request out dot write buf, we are written the buffer. Now read and display the response while into bracket c equal to in dot read method bracket complete not equal to -1 bracket complete open the curly bracket system dot out dot println into bracket typecast the char into bracket char C bracket complete semicolon. Each character we have typecast and printed on the screen. Close the curly bracket, close the socket s dot close method. Now close the main method, close the class body like this. Here we have closed while main method and class body. Like this you can write the program for simple socket example. See the output for this. Java C who is .java compilation is successful. Now execution. -cp space dot who is. Output for the example is shown, or we have taken in the slide also. Okay, see here, exception in thread main Java connection refused, a connection timed out connect. Okay, there is some problem in connection connecting to the socket to the internet dot server. Wait, network is connected or not. From current slide. Okay guys, we will get the output like this. In our laptop some problem is there, so that output is not displayed, but you can see the output on your system like this. Next is here is how the program works. First, a socket is constructed that specifies the host name internet.net and the port number 43. Internet.net is the internet website that handles who is request. Port 43 is the who is port. Next, both input and output streams are opened on the socket. Then a string is constructed that contains the name of the website you want to obtain information about. In this case, if no website is specified on the command line, then osborne.com is used. The string is converted into a byte array and then sent out of the socket. The response is read by the inputting from the socket and the results are displayed. Like this program works. Now next class is the URL. The preceding example was rather obscure because the modern internet is not about the older protocols such as WHOIS, Finger and FTP. It is about www, the World Wide Web. The web is a loose collection of higher level protocols and fine formats, all unified in a web browser. All unified in a web browser. One of the most important aspects of the web is that Tim Berners-Lee devised a scalable way to locate all of the resources of the net. Once you can reliably name anything and everything, it becomes a very powerful paradigm. The Uniform Resource Locator URL does exactly that. The URL provides a reasonably intelligible form to uniquely identify or address information on the internet. URLs are ubiquitous. Every browser uses them to identify information on the web. Within the Java's internet class library, the URL class provides a simple, concise API to access information across the internet using URLs. All URLs share the same basic format. although some variation is allowed. Here are the two examples. First one, http colon double slash www.osborne.com slash. This is the first. And second, http colon double slash www.osborne.com colon 80 slash index.htm. Like this, we are considering the two URLs. The URL specification is based on four components. URL consists of four components. The first is the protocol to use, separated from the rest of the locator by a colon. Common protocols are HTTP, FTP, Gopher and file. We have written HTTP colon. This is the first part. It is a protocol. Although these days almost everything is being done via HTTP. In fact, most browsers will proceed correctly if you leave off the HTTP colon double slash from your URL specification. The second component is the host name or IP address of the host to use. This is delimited on the left by double slashes and on the right by a slash or optionally a colon. The third component, the port number, is an optional parameter delimited on the left from the host name by a colon and on the right by a slash. It defaults to port 80, the predefined HTTP port. Thus, colon 80 is redundant. The fourth part is the actual file path. Most HTTP servers will append a file named index.html or index.htm to URLs that refer directly to a directory's resource. Thus, http colon double slash www.osborne.com slash is the same as the http colon double slash www.osborne.com slash index.htm. These two are the same. This is the basics of URL. Now, Java's URL class has several constructors. Each can throw a malformed URL exception. M capital, URL capital, E capital. These three words are connected. Malformed URL connection. One commonly used form specifies the URL with a string that is identical to what you see displayed in a browser. URL into bracket string URL specifier bracket complete throws malformed URL exception. This is the first constructor. The next two forms of the constructor allow us to break up the URL into its component parts. It has four component parts. Okay, like this: URL into bracket string protocol name, comma string host name, comma integer port, comma string path bracket complete throws malformed URL exception. Next one is the URL string protocol name, comma string host name, comma string path bracket complete throws malformed URL exception. Like this, three forms of URLs constructors are there. Next is the another frequently used constructor allows us to use an existing URL as a reference context and then create a new URL from that context. Although this sounds a little contoured, it's really quite easy and useful. See this next URL into bracket URL obj comma string URL specifier bracket complete throws malformed URL exception. The following example creates a URL to Osborne's download page and then examines its properties. Notice that the port is -1 when output we are getting that time. This means that a port was not explicitly set. Given a URL object, you can retrieve the data associated with it. To access the actual bits or content information of a URL, create a URL connection object. If you want to access the content from that URL, then we need to create a URL connection object from it using its open connection method like the given below. URLC equal to URL dot open connection method. Open connection method has the following general form: URL connection space open connection method throws IO exception. It returns a URL connection object associated with the invoking URL object. Notice that it may throw an IO exception. In the next lecture, we are going to study the URL connection. Okay. Next, we are see this example URL demo, how it works. Here, first thing we need to import the packages. Import java.net. Next is the class URL demo. Open curly bracket public static void main string args throws malformed URL exception. Open the curly bracket URL, its instance HP equal to new URL into bracket http://www.osborne.com/downloads double quotation complete bracket complete semicolon. Now print everything system.out.println into bracket double quotation protocol colon double quotation complete plus here instance.hp.get protocol method bracket complete semicolon system.out.println port plus hp.get port method bracket complete semicolon system.out.println host double quotation complete plus hp.get host method bracket complete semicolon system.out.println into bracket double quotation file colon double quotation complete plus hp.get file method bracket complete semicolon. Next system.out.println external form plus hp.to external form method bracket complete semicolon. Close the main method, close the class. Like this curly brackets are closed. This is the simple example of demonstration of URL. See the output for this example. Java C URL demo. Compilation is okay. Now execute this program. See output on the screen. Protocol HTTP port -1 host www.osborne.com file/downloads and to the external form http://www.osborne.com/downloads. Like this URL components are displayed on the screen and this is the URL. In the next lecture we are going to study URL connection class. Thank you guys. Thank you for the watching. Thank you.